Expand our imagination.
Justification for being what you are.
Hello and welcome to Washington Unplugged. I'm congressional correspondent Nancy Cordes. Thanks for joining us. Well, today is the first of 2 days of hearings here on Capitol Hill over Toyota and its sudden acceleration recall problems and whether the government, let me do that again, guys, sorry about that. Sorry, Congressman. Take two. That's the problem with doing it on tape. You always know you can stop. Okay. Hello and welcome to Washington Unplugged. I'm congressional correspondent Nancy Cordes. Well, the heat is on Toyota here on Capitol Hill today and tomorrow as the first of 2 days of hearings begin into Toyota's sudden acceleration problems, huge recalls, and whether the company and the government dragged their heels when it came to looking into this problem and fixing it. I'm joined today by Congressman Darrell Issa. He's the ranking Republican on the House Oversight Committee. He'll have his chance to grill the president of Toyota, Akio Toyoda, tomorrow. What do you want to know from him?
Really what we want to know, and the reason that we repeated our invitations for him to come, is what he's going to do as the head of a global entity to bring about a cultural change that will have the respect for problems that occur after a car is out there be elevated to the same level that Toyota is famous for on the production line. We need to have a zero tolerance for safety problems or possible anomalies that they actually have in their production.
Now, Congressman, you've been extremely aggressive in pushing for this investigation, and you're filling up my inbox daily. And I know that you're very concerned about not just what the company did, but also what the government did in response to it. You've had a chance now to review rafts of documents. Are you convinced at this point that Toyota tried to cover up these problems?
I think Toyota used all the tools available to try to state what they thought was true, that the problems were simply carpet entrapment and not any electronics. There's no question, internal memos show they believed that they didn't have an electronics problem. At the same time, it's very clear that NHTSA was not holding them to the high standard. In some cases, internal emails from Department of Transportation show that basically they thought they should elevate something and then they abandoned it. Some of this could be because their friends had gone from inside to outside. And revolving doors, people who leave government and go to work for industry, is more about government's failure to deal with that, not necessarily the people who hire these former government employees.
That's something that I found very interesting in the internal investigation documents that your office has collected, which is that these investigators seem to be very concerned. They seem to think that there's a problem here that goes just beyond floor mats, that it actually could be electric in nature, and yet nothing happened.
Well, exactly. And the thing that you have to understand about Department of Transportation, they have only an $18 million total budget for NHTSA. NHTSA cannot do the investigations. They leverage the $86 billion of research and development that the major auto companies do, and they're not doing it well. They have their suspicions and then they abandon it and claim it's a lack of resources. It's not about their resources, it's about making the auto companies live up to a high standard with their resources.
How much of this has to do with a more lax approach to regulation, if you will, that was prevalent over the past 8 years when it wasn't just NHTSA but other agencies like the Consumer Product Safety Commission that were sort of told to kind of take a step back, and we did see problems with lead in toys and these kinds of things because overall there seemed to be an environment where regulation was not valued as much.
Well, Nancy, my committee oversees government workers and government committees. These are bureaucrats. These are full-time workers. They're not politicians. They're not political appointees, almost any of them. And there were no law changes that said stop doing your job. There was no directive to stop doing their job.
But there was less money that went to these agencies.
There wasn't even less money. As a matter of fact, NHTSA has not even asked for more money. They've been funded sufficiently according to their own request. What we see, though, is if you don't oversee bureaucracies, if you're not constantly saying they have to do better and shining light on them, they get lazy. That seems to be the omission of the Bush administration and perhaps before, and it actually seems to still be the omission of this administration. You've got to work bureaucrats hard to keep them doing their job, and that's part of what our committee is trying to really energize.
So one question that's come up lately is whether Congress can hold their feet to the fire on an issue like this one, because Toyota, which has enormous resources, has given a lot of money to members of Congress. I think the last figure I saw was that something like 40 of the 125 members of Congress who are on the 3 relevant committees who are looking into this problem have all gotten donations from Toyota over the past 10 years. Do you think that there's a conflict of interest when that happens?
Well, you know, Bill Gates gives me money, but it doesn't make me a Microsoft apologist. I think that what you have to do in this town is you have to not look at the contributions you get and look at the job you have. And in my committee's function, one day somebody's going to love what I'm doing, and the next day I'm going to be exposing their failures. And that's just part of the business. If you're not willing to do it, you shouldn't be in this town.
Do you think that there should be some kind of rule that states that if a member of Congress has an outsized personal interest or financial interest in a company that they should step aside?
Well, we have conflict of interest laws, and those ethical standards have to be strictly adhered to. The challenge we really have is that conflict of interest is a little different than simply, I don't want to rock the boat, I might lose a donor in the future, or, you know, I don't want to offend anyone. If you're in this town and you're not willing to offend people, you're not willing to keep the responsibilities to the taxpayers and to your constituents that you've made. The vast majority of people I represent will never come to Washington, never call me, never come see me, but those are the people you have to fight for. That's what I think we're doing this week here in Washington.
So you think that Toyota will get scrutinized the way any company would get scrutinized in the same situation?
Toyota's in the crosshairs. They're going to get both fair and unfair oversight. There are going to be people who take cheap shots. But when it comes to getting NHTSA to do their job going forward, this is our week to change how the Department of Transportation deals with all the auto companies when it's your safety at risk.
Got it. Congressman Issa, we look forward to your hearing tomorrow. Look forward to the testimony of the Toyota president, and hope you get some good questions in there.
We will.
We'll be
Thank you,
listening.
Nancy.
Thank you so much. And thank you for watching Washington Unplugged. You can catch us every day at www.cbsnews.com. I'm Nancy Cordes. Have a good one. See you later.
If we don't expand our imagination,
Justification for being what you are.